Let's have a few comments and questions for our absolutely fantastic panel here. So who'd like to kick us off? Mike.
Is all the information we've just heard, which has been amazing, all on the website? Can we get a lot from it? Yes?
Yes, but I can't answer the question. Who can answer the question?
Yeah,
all of the films of the workshops from the last 2 days that you were not all here for and from today are all available on the Sustainable Food Trust website, as will everyone's presentation.
So we can share this amazing power. All right, let's have some questions. Let's take you, yes.
I just have an observation more than a question, having listened to quite a number of speakers. And what seems to occur to me is that when we talk about food, we don't talk about the nutritional aspect of food. We talk about food to fill ourselves. And I don't know how we can get this message across, that food is both our energy, our medicine. I grew up in Nigeria as a child, and for me, food was such a variety of things.
Yeah.
Things that I foraged for, things that I ate seasonally, things that I ate for a particular reason because there was a particular need that I had. And I think there needs to be edible education. We need to talk about food in a different way. People need to know what they're eating it for. And I don't know how we could put that message across.
Zichi is my pedagogical tutor in our new centre, Good Food Matters, in Croydon. And it will be opening in spring.
So let's take this question here.
Hi, my name is Christina and I'm a student at City University. And my question is for Nadia. It's about the data behind the estimates you showed and how reliable it is. I'm particularly interested in post-harvest losses in developing countries, and to me the data in the 2011 report, particularly for developing countries, isn't that reliable because, for example, for Southeast Asia, 70% of the estimates are either based on FAO assumptions or generic data or extrapolated from data from other regions. So I know the FAO is doing the best it can do with the data it has, but I'm just interested, particularly my main area is East Africa, and have you heard of AFLIS, the African Post-Harvest Loss Information System? And what do you think of that system, or what do you think is the best thing we can do to get accurate data, particularly for developing countries?
You should go to the field and measure it. Let's take the question back here.
Someone wants to bring me to Africa, I'll go.
Let's take a question back here, and then we'll come forward.
My name is Hadi Wuchtmann, German League for Nature and Environment at University of Kassel. Nadia and Tristram, you made a very strong case against food waste. To make your case even stronger, why would you not include the avoided environmental effect if you do biogas first, compost later, and you don't have to buy the fertilizer? I think you should include it. It will not weaken your case, but it will make it much more stronger. And we have a lot of data available on this over the years.
Super. Let's take another question at the back up here, and then we'll come to this side of the room. Oh, and Guillermo.
Hi, Nick Lampkin from the Organic Research Centre in the UK. I'm an agricultural economist, and I've been working on sort of the economics of food production systems for many decades now. And the whole issue of externalities and public goods delivered by agriculture and so on is a critical issue. But how we can translate that into a true cost type approach is still for me a real challenge. I'm not convinced yet by some of the examples that we've been hearing. I have two basic problems. One is that the price in the market is not necessarily a reflection of any costs. It's a reflection partly of consumer demand and partly of retailing strategies. And the second thing is, which model of production do we take as our baseline in order to evaluate what the basic standard cost should be that we're building on? I certainly would have serious concerns about the real price approach that was described, because it's taking retail prices somehow a a baseline on which to add other costs. I think so I'd like to ask how these challenges are really dealt with.
Yep, I'm not sure we'll be able to deal with them now, but it's really important that we constantly remind ourselves of these challenges. So let's have Guillermo here at the front. And then I think we have to go this side of the room.
Thank you. It's a question for Pete. I'm just curious to know why there are some chemicals that have been more easily banned than others. Is there something intrinsic about those that have not been banned as easily that we should be thinking differently about?
Very, very interesting question. Let's go to this side of the room then. If I could see how many people we have, it'll help. You want to start with... Wait, so, hold on. Can you take the microphone to the... Yeah.
David G, European Environment Agency, just retired. For Nadia and Tristram, a couple of elements missing here. When you put taxes on externalities, in general you use the revenues to reduce other taxes so that people have got more money to buy the more expensive consumer goods. That's a key issue, really. The second is, in agriculture, you're blessed, unlike energy, because you've got such strong positive externalities, which should, of course, be paid for. As it's the opposite of tax on negative. You pay for positive externalities in agriculture, and you've got huge carbon and other positive externalities. And the third point I've forgotten, but that will do.
I sent a message to your brain, and then behind you, I think it's Anne.
Anne Thrupp from the Berkeley Food Institute. I wanted to ask Helmy if you could comment or respond to a question about why more food companies and food or producers, farmers, are not pursuing the incredible approach that you are using. And related to that, is there interest on the part of government agencies, entities that are supporting your effort to help to replicate or take the lessons learned from your experience and help to support other farmers to pursue your approach? Other than your great leadership in talking about it, I'm just wondering if there's institutional or policy support that can really help spread what you're doing.
Thank you. And then over here.
I'm Erasmus, a conservation PhD student at Cambridge. Just a question about SEKEM. So to what degree are you just taking nutrients in the form of compost from a fertile area to an infertile area and then just farming there? Is there not sort of like a subtraction that is occurring to a certain degree?
Good question. And then over here at the back here.
Hi, Tracy was to the Pig Ask. I just wanted to know, you had the Gates Foundation over your couple of days. What do they think about SEKEM? So instead of having GM crops to grow things on desertified areas, what do they think about what you're doing?
I'm looking to see if we have someone from Gates who would like to respond to that. And I think Roy is. Are you here, Roy? Do you want to respond? No. Okay, fantastic questions. We have, I think, we'll maybe allow this other question that's sneaking in here with lots of lobbying. These are really, really great stuff that's coming out. I wish we had days and days.
Hi, I'm an engineering student.
Keep talking on it, they'll turn it on now. Keep speaking into that.
At Surrey University, I'm actually doing a doctorate degree on accounting for social and environmental impacts. We have a big challenge with social impacts, and that comes from child labor. And in the coffee case study, you put the number on the child labor, which we really find very difficult to put a price on that, because the need of future generations, of course, you have to take into account that child that is not being educated and it's in the fields. So I would like to know, how did you come up with that price? Because then it will help me in my research as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Another impossible question. Fantastic to have students here. You will have to answer these questions yourselves. It's really great that you're here. So let's give our speakers a chance to bounce back some of these questions. in any particular order?
Well, I can respond quickly, I think, to Guillermo's question. It's really, there's several factors that influence the chances of banning a particular chemical. One is the strength of the data. A second is the strength of the opposition, because there are big vested interests often, always behind these. But the third is unpredictable. It's the political moment. And you need to have the first two in hand when the political moment arrives. And that's what leads to bans.
And the longer a chemical has been out there, the bigger the vested interest, and the more difficult it is for science to win the argument.
Although the data accumulate as well.
Yeah.
Ag chemicals, glyphosate, atrazine, and probably, well, there are many in the lower tier, but the interesting thing about glyphosate is you take glyphosate out and you eliminate most of GMO agriculture.
Yeah.
And the strength of the data emerging on glyphosate is quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
It was advertised as safe because the way it hurts weeds is it interferes with a specific enzyme in plants. It's not in us, it's not a problem, right? Well, unfortunately, there's a large body of literature that's emerged that says that glyphosate is also a retinoid signal disruptor. And when that happens in vertebrates, you get birth defects, and you get a lot of other things. And the data that are coming out on the levels of exposure required of glyphosate to produce these things in vertebrates is that it's well within the range of exposure to farm workers, and it's within the range of what's in food, in soy and corn on the market today.
What we have coming out of the science is, in a certain way, the incredible conservative innovation of life, that chemicals genes and chemicals that we thought were specific to particular groups turn out to be reversions of genes and chemicals that were useful to other groups, even at other long back stages of evolution. So it's really unraveling the idea that we can target these chemicals. It's going to change everything, that understanding, if it's allowed to come forward. Helmy, reactions?
Yeah, first regarding the study. We did this study, as you could see, in the year 2010, and it was meant to cause a revolution in Egypt, which it did in January 2011. So, unfortunately, since then we are very busy with the revolution and the after waves of the revolution, but soon things will stabilize and we will go back with this study and make sure that we are on the right path for the new Egypt. On the other hand, farmers, entrepreneurs are taking on these ideas. We have 60,000 acres today, which is 1% of our arable land, organic certified. The limiting factor here is capacity. So our universities, schools, many capacity building institutions for research and so on are needed. This is going to be our biggest challenge for the years to come, to build capacity for this transition. And regarding compost, I want to assure you the compost is done out of recycling plant waste from the farms and out of animal waste. And yes, for the very first year, obviously we have to produce this compost on only one of our farms and transport the compost. But from the second year onwards, the compost is always produced on farm with the waste available. So it is a sustainable system and we don't move earth or soil or anything like this.
Thank you, Helmy. Tristram?
Oh, have I got I'm mic'd, aren't I? So starting with Houter Lockerman's point about the additional benefits in terms of using compost and displacing the use of fertilizer. Of course, that's massively significant. I don't ignore it in my book. Just to clarify, the reason why that isn't included on the pigs versus anaerobic digestion data is that I assume all things are equal. They both those treatments of food waste avoid landfill. Both of them mean that the organic material is available for fertilizer. If you use it as compost or anaerobic digestion digestate, they can go on the land. Pig poo is also an excellent fertilizer. Now, Professor Silver and I had a furious row yesterday about whether you should be feeding food waste to a composter or to an AD and the potential organic content in soil benefits of compost versus pigs. But the point that I'm really trying to make is that whilst I acknowledge that there are some arguments to say that you lose some organic content by feeding it to a pig, the benefits by avoiding the demand for more food, namely pig feed, outweigh vastly that marginal difference. And I'd be very interested to discuss that further, but just to say that is taken into account in other calculations but isn't relevant to that one. On the issue of...
Very quick. Go for it, but be quick.
I don't need to answer it.
Yeah. I mean, sorry to do this, but there were so many good questions, but I think we probably don't have time. So Nadia, do you want to take, and then you can follow up one-on-one.
I can take quickly about 5 questions, I think, which were addressed to me. The first one is about food having nutrition. Of course, I mean, it's an important issue, and it hasn't been dealt with. The only country that has had data sets on the nutrition quality of crops is USDA website, actually, since the Second World War. And if you look at it, you will notice that most of the crops have lost about 30% of their nutrition.
Yeah.
So the future will be really looking at nutrition index per hectare and not yield per hectare, but it hasn't been done, and we are far from that yet.
Super.
Anyway.
Choose one other question to answer.
In terms of the quality of the post-harvest losses in information we have in FAOStat, the quality of the information is as good as the countries give it to us. And indeed, there are different challenges on the other or waste, reports that we have, because of course this is a global study, so you have to have the same methodology and all countries included. We do have data issues, and the global study is to just ring the bell on a problem that needs to be addressed, and then for any meaningful decision-making and action, you really have to do the study at a local level with research, and this is what FAO now is being engaged in.
And studies like this can stimulate the right kinds of local studies to be done.
And then the other 3 questions were really on positive externalities, how you calculate for social costs and so forth. We have had an e-forum on full cost accounting in the past 5 weeks on food waste. About 300 people registered, but we had maybe, I didn't count, but less than 10 people who participated, because we have had input papers with all the state of knowledge, and it was difficult to really add to these things. So I would really invite you to look at the website, and if you have anything, because we are really looking for cooperation to improve those kind of calculation and how we're going to include avoided costs, positive externalities, and so forth. So this is a conversation in progress, and I really hope that after this meeting we'll be working more together. Thank you.
Thank you. Adrian?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to 2 questions. First, there was someone still unconvinced in the room. That has been noted. No, but I'm happy about that, because I think one of the risks in this approach is that it is complex at the backside, so that people jump into it too quickly. So it's good that people reflect on that. And in particular, there was a question about whether you should take market prices as given. In a way, we think there is no other way than to take market prices as a given, because there's one stream of many economists who have tried to come up with shadow prices and come up with the perfect economy. So we think it's not possible to come up with perfect prices, but rather our approach is very pragmatic, is that we want to have a sustainable economy, so we want to drive down the gap, CO2 emissions, child labor, etc. So that is why we add it to the market price, so that we can focus on the issues that are important and not coming up with a perfect world. And then there was another question.
Very brief.
About child labor. So what we do there, and again, we don't try to put an intrinsic value on the things, because we think that's not a way to go. It's impossible to put intrinsic values in monetary terms. But you can look in child labor at very specific ILO conditions, and also what do you need to do if there is a child that has been working? What are the steps you need to take to remedy that? And that are things you can cost quite effectively.
Yeah. So I think these 2 panels have both been utterly extraordinary. I think we'll all be thinking differently going forward. I think a big round of applause to them.